if you're a bass player and you're going to be going out and playing a bluegrass gig, this might be something new for you, or if you're interested in playing bluegrass, I'm just going to show you just a few very simple, very quick things that will get you started playing bluegrass music. And I'm just oversimplifying things here because this is just like a real quick start guide for you, nothing fancy. Most bluegrass music, or a lot of the chord changes in bluegrass music, are 1, 4, and 5 in the key. In other words, if we're in the key of C, it's going to be a C chord, an F chord, and a G chord, and all different combinations of those chords. And in bluegrass, 90% of the time, I'm just going to say 90% of the time, you want to sit there and play root and fifth on every chord. So if I'm playing a C chord, I want to play a C on the downbeats and G on the upbeats, like this. And it can be either octave or this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very simple. So when I go to an F, I'm going to play an F on the downbeats and a C on the upbeats. And then when I go to a G, I'm going to do the same thing, but on a G. Playing a G on the downbeat and a D on the upbeat. And you can always do octaves too. You know, various combinations of things. Okay, so that's how you can play through and just generally groove. That's generally how it's done in bluegrass, 1s and 5s. And again, I'm oversimplifying here. Okay, but then to do some of those little walk-ups and walk-downs and transitions between the chords, just use the major scale. So if you're playing in C, because you're playing a C, an F, and a G, you'll know you're in C. You want to use the C major scale. And also going down all the way. You want to learn all the notes around and be comfortable with that, because you're just going to use the major scale and fill in the blanks. So as I'm playing a C chord, I'm going to go to the F, and instead of just switching to an F chord, I'm going to use the major scale to walk up to the F. So in the chart I have for this little lesson, I use the major scale to walk up to the F chord, and then walk back down using the same major scale. And then going to the G, I'm going to go to the low E and do a chromatic approach up to the G. And then walk up the major scale back to the C. Okay, so real silly and simple. 1s and 5s, the 1s are on the downbeat, the 5s on the upbeat, and then use the major scale for whatever type of walking transition you want to use between chords. And it also depends on the rhythm, because you can just be doing the quarter notes and just use one of the major scale notes. Like that. Or you can use a lot of them. Like this. Now, out of context, this just sounds pretty silly, and that's why I say that. But in the context where you have the banjo and the acoustic and mandolin all playing together, you're the beat, you're the pulse of the bluegrass ensemble, and so the bass part is extremely important. That's why it's fairly simple, or at least this is my interpretation of it, that you really need to be laying the beat down. You're more or less playing drums with the band as the bass player. And in some of the bluegrass styles, they get into slapping and making it really percussive and stuff like that. So but you're driving the pulse of the band. So that's why the rhythms are fairly simple, and you want to keep most of the time just going back and forth on the 1 and 5. It's like a kick and a snare. You know, your 2 different notes have your 2 different drums, so that you can do the groove in bluegrass. So again, super quick. I'm oversimplifying everything, but if you just want to get started playing some bluegrass music, that's the key to it. 1s and 5s. 1s on the downbeat, 5s on the upbeat, using the major scale to create lines and transitions between chords. Most of the time, it's the 1 chord, the 5 chord, and the 4 chord, or, you know, in C, it would be C, G, and F. Of course, there are other chords in bluegrass. I don't mean to imply that that's the only chords that are there, but basically, that's what it is. So hopefully that gets you started playing some bluegrass. And again, I would show you on an upright bass, which would be the right instrument, but it's a lot harder to see the notes and stuff like that. So I'm showing you on electric bass, so it makes the most sense anyhow. So enjoy.